Okay, I'm gonna put it in presentation mode. Now I cannot see you anymore, but it should be fine. Is it?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, so thanks for coming. This is we are very happy to give you this this webinar on sustainable food procurement. It's gonna be me in the first part, and then my colleague Monica in the second part. We organized this webinar in three parts essentially. So the first one is an overview of sort of the policy environment around sustainable food procurement. Then there is a second part, which is the initiatives that are promoting sustainable food procurement around Europe. And then I'll pass on to my colleague Monica, who will present who will provide you with tips and tricks and criteria on how to concretely and materially improve the procurement of sustainable food. These are basically the learning objectives. So the idea, as I said, is to give you an overview of the policy landscape, the different initiatives that promote it, and learn some good practices currently taking place around the world. Maybe to begin with, I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with that, but it's always good to refresh our memories. So what is sustainable food? Here we have a definition. A sustainable food system is one that contributes to food security and nutrition for all in such a way that economic, social, cultural, and environmental basis to generate food security and nutrition for future generations and safeguard it. Basically, sustainable food, it's a multidimensional entity, and it covers like environmental aspect, health aspect, the economy. So it's a food system that supports like employment, social aspect, the fact that we have lower food inequalities, no food poverty, and access to food. Ethical aspect like animal welfare, and quality like organoleptic qualities of the food that we eat, and the general resilience of the entire system. What is food procurement? While we were brainstorming with Monica, we came up with this idea. We oftentimes think of procurement as cities buying food for people, but we really see that it's actually a sort of a black box. Here I put a telling picture from Le Petit Prince. Basically, you don't see the elephant of what it is. And so just as a reminder, when we say sustainable food procurement, we always have to consider what kind of food we have to buy, where to buy the food, from who to buy this food exactly, and then all the process of how to buy it. I don't know how many of you know, but there isn't just one way for public authorities to buy food. There are different procedures. You can make up a tender. You can have different one applying for the bid. You can have a selected procedure, simplified procedure. And then beyond that, you can buy food or services. And if you buy food, the question is, what kind of food? Is it already prepared or it's raw? And if it's raw, then you have to prepare it and have the instrument to do so. And also, most importantly, sort of always do that within the legal boundaries, both at the European level and at the national level. So to dive a little bit into the landscape, the policy landscape, here you have an overview of what has been happening so far around sustainable food procurement. We're going to go back a little bit in time to the very regretted EU Green Deal until like the most recent development. So as you probably remember, the EU Green Deal was a very nice policy document. From that, we had the farm to fork strategy that was extremely ambitious and also carried a food system approach. In terms of food procurement, what was really nice and really appreciated is the fact that we wanted to develop through this sectoral legislation, the Sustainable Food System Law framework, a set of minimum mandatory criteria for sustainable food procurement. In essence, the European Commission wanted to have. I hear someone speaking.
Isso depende, no fundo, do terreno disponível que tu
tenhas.
Your microphone. Yeah. Sorry, John.
Okay, no problem. So basically, essentially, what this Sustainable Food System Law framework wanted to do for food procurement was to create a level playing field across Europe that would support the purchasing of fairly produced, equitable, and sustainable and healthy food. However, this piece of legislation has now completely disappeared from the policy landscape, and it has been replaced by two other pieces of legislation. As you probably know, now we don't talk about the EU Green Deal, now it's about the competitiveness compass. And when it comes to food, we don't have the food strategy, the farm to fork strategy, but we have instead the vision for agriculture and food. So things have changed quite radically. Now, the main goal, the main objective is not strictly speaking anymore sustainability, but it's rather competitiveness. And actually, when it comes to food, is security, understood in a very narrow way. And what really characterizes this shift is the moving away from an holistic approach that took into consideration all the different aspect and dimension of food, the production, distribution, the consumption, the environmental dimension, the health dimension, to a more narrow approach that specifically tends to look almost exclusively at the production side. In the vision for agriculture and food, there are some references to procurement, and for all of us that were working on it, we were somehow like so the vision was referring actually to the idea of moving towards a best value approach, support small and medium-sized food enterprises, and really promote consumption of local seasonal products and foster the development of short supply chains. Following the coming about of the competitiveness compass and the vision for food and agriculture, we enter also the period of the revision of the directive 2014, that was basically the main frame for how food is procured across Europe. A long process started, and the first of that was actually the development and publication of the INI report. For those who don't know, the INI report is a report that is developed by some committees within the European Parliament that somehow sets the ground and tells the European Commission who will have to develop the new legislative proposal, which kind of direction to take. And in the INI report, although it wasn't entirely satisfactory for all the stakeholders, there were some interesting points that I put here on the slide. So the fact that there is a reference to the idea that procurement can support and should support regional economic resilience, and that we really have to move towards sustainability of local economies. And then it also mentioned how strategic food procurement can be to bolster EU food security and resilience, and it also encouraged the Commission to make sure that criteria for climate resilience and sustainability and health are better used to promote a healthy diet, especially and also support EU farmers. Following the INI report last year, we also had the final evaluation of the current directive, the 2014, And unfortunately, as you can see, there were no explicit mention to food, and the general conclusions of the evaluation are listed here. So the legal certainty that was supposed to achieve when it was developed was not fully realized. Simplification and flexibility was also only partially realized. Lower administrative burden, same thing, not fully achieved. Competitiveness, only partially. And what's also important, the uptake of green and sustainability criteria was not fully achieved. Maybe I just take here the opportunity to do a little bit of context. As probably some of you know, the 2014 directives on public procurement introduced the possibility of using award criteria and the meet criteria. So it really opened up the possibility for those cities that wanted to ensure organic, fairly produced, sustainable diets, sustainable product in their canteens to do so. However, it was never mandatory. The possibility was there, but it was in an imposition, let's say. This was a great advancement. However, only a few, as the evaluation of the directive stresses, were able to do so. So coming back to the initial idea of the Sustainable Food System Law and the development of mandatory minimum sustainability criteria across Europe, because the political landscape shifted, because there were the new election, also because, somehow because of the farmers revolt or protest, the commission sort of backed up, and instead of publishing the law, they resorted to simply put out voluntary criteria. These voluntary criteria came out through a report that was published by the JRC that represent actually a very interesting document, although they're voluntary and non-mandatory. But it's a quite interesting document because it's the transformation of the GPP, so the Green Public Procurement Criteria for food, from being only green to being sustainable. So more like all-encompassing. As an example, actually, is that it doesn't simply take into consideration the environmental aspect, but it also takes into consideration the health aspect, the social aspect, and the ethical aspect of food procurement. Here you can see that the document is extremely long, but what's interesting is the revision and how the criteria were actually revised, and the fact that some criteria are specific, other are more horizontal, as I said, so health and nutrition, but are also criteria on food waste. And what's interesting is that the report also offers the possibility or pushes for the adoption of food strategies at the local level and market dialogue. So food strategies, just for the context, procurement is one tool that cities can use, but it's always embedded or should always be embedded in a broader framework at the local level that is a food strategy. And market dialogue, for those who don't know, it's actually the possibility, it's a phase that can preempt the whole procurement process, whereby the public authorities and the economic operator can actually engage in discussion and present their different wishes and needs and constraints in order to then fine-tune for a coherent and viable tender. Now, in the past months, we had a lot of debate because the public procurement directive was supposed to be drafted. And what is interesting to notice is that there were some different confusion, let's say, over this. And for us here in Brussels that have been taking part of some of this discussion, what was fascinating to see, or troubling to see actually, is the fact that there were some confusion within the technical and the political discussions, and also the confusion between what this revision of the directive can actually achieve. Many sometimes missed the distinction between what the directive does and what we actually want from the directive. So we want to buy more sustainable food, but the directive doesn't tell, because it's horizontal, because it's a procurement directive, not a specific directive on food. It doesn't tell what to buy, but rather how to buy things, products, services, etc. There was also some misalignment, let's say, on how things could be can be like reorganized, let's say, through the directive. There were a lot of discussion on we need simplification, we need to lower the administrative burden, etc. But we also realize on our side that what is actually needed for the public authorities that purchase food is a simplification that can go through, or should go through, more legal clarity. If cities are not using at best the meat criteria, it's oftentimes because they don't know how to navigate the different layer of the legislation, and because they feel insecure, and cities are oftentimes risk averse, they tend to fall back on the most simple procedure, which is the price, or the simplest criteria, which is the price. And then another aspect is that food unfortunately is only a very tiny part of the whole procurement, and it's tough to understand also to what extent we need to give more freedom to member states, or ensure that at European level there is a sort of guideline or a level playing field, as I said before, for sustainable food in public canteens. This is so I hope now you have a sort of overview of the policy landscape. Maybe one thing that I didn't mention so far is that we are nearing the publication of this new directive. According to internal sources, it's supposed to come up on the 1st of July, and we are whole in trepidation to at least see in the upcoming days a first leak to sort of see what it will look like. A little bit of a spoiler, perhaps. We have tried to understand if there will be a central role for food, but this will probably not be the case. And this is also something that was discussed in March of this year during an event that was the Food Dialogue organized by DG Agri and DG Grow. And although many cities presented, an organization presented their demands and their recommendations, the Vice President Séjourné said that it's going to be the main objective is really simplification, and simplification across the different procurement sectors. But this being said, let me now move to the different initiatives that exist across Europe that try to promote as much as possible the adoption of sustainable food procurement practices. This is very briefly what I'm going to be talking about. So the different initiatives, starting from the Buy Better Food campaign, the different work that the Food Policy Coalition is doing, a petition that was launched 2.5 years ago on school meals, Another campaign that is led by France Urbaine, of course, the work that we're doing with the Urban Agenda Partnership, and a very interesting and impactful project that is School Food for Change. So for those who don't know, the Buy Better Food is an awareness raising and advocacy campaign that was launched in 2021. Somehow already knowing that the Sustainable Food System Law and the good intention of the Commission regarding procurement were coming up. This is a campaign that is currently coordinated by ICLE, and it's actually coordinated by ICLE, but the direction is given by a board of 10 organizations. From Italy, for instance, we have Fondazione Ecosistemi. In France, there is Eating City. We have Mensa Civica from Spain and others. It's a campaign that has more than 200 members. They're very diversified. Essentially, there are cities, NGOs, and some private sector. And it has four main objectives. So actually three, what I would say. So the idea is to present food procurement or sustainable food procurement as a key lever to the transition towards a sustainable food system. We advocate for the adoption of minimum mandatory criteria. We also advocate for the development of food education curricula in schools. And also what we do is we try to share intel and knowledge across the broad coalition. Oh yes, here I just put some pictures of some events. We organized some panel discussions in Brussels. Bottom left, you have the participation of Buy Better Food to a big procurement event. This was in Lisbon for the Procura Plus, and then bottom right, you have this is the Buy Better Food session on sustainable food procurement during the Youth Organic Forum of IFOM, and then top right, this is a series of presentation and discussion within the task force food procurement of the Food Policy Coalition. And this is actually a good transition because so for those of you who don't know, the Food Policy Coalition is a coalition of more than 60 NGOs, 6 European NGOs that all work directly and indirectly on sustainable food. And back in 2022, the coalition, knowing about the development by the Commission of this minimum mandatory criteria, developed a manifesto. Essentially, many organizations knew already what kind of criteria were needed across Europe to make food procurement more sustainable. And so we took a little bit the lead and we developed these criteria within this manifesto. You have it on the left. The manifesto is, I say it very humbly, but a sort of a Bible, because it really encompasses or like covers all the dimension of what sustainable food procurement is and should be. And it's very interesting because it's divided in two parts. So one part is the overarching principle, where we advocate for like good governance. And by good governance, I mean like the discussion or the dialogue between the different level of governance. So the European level, the national level, but also the municipal level, because sometimes there are different competencies, and what you might have a city that is very ambitious, but there are some legal constraints that come from higher governance levels. And then the second principle that we advocate for is the market engagement first. As I mentioned, this idea that procurement shouldn't be seen as a mere economic transaction between like a buyer and a seller, but it can be something that is jointly discussed at the very beginning without of course, bypassing all the legal requirements of drafting the tender, applying for the tender, evaluating the tender, etc. But the core of the manifesto is really the principle, the criteria that it developed. Here you have them listed: healthy food, organic and agroecological product, support for small-scale farmers, climate action, decent working condition, fair trade, and animal welfare. I'm not going to dive into them. This is just an overview. I just want to mention the fact that this is a manifesto that was written and agreed on by more than 60 NGOs, and also it was legally screened. So it, when it was developed, it abided fully by the 2014 procurement directives at the EU level. And then what is also interesting is that it's a document that can be used also by procurers. It's not exclusively, actually, almost not at all, a political document calling for like values to be enacted, etc. It's a very pragmatical one that pinpoints the targets that we want to achieve, break them down into procurement criteria and verification methods that can be used by procurers, and also provides the rationale for it. Here you have one example for the principle and the targets on organic and agroecological products. As you can see, we have the target, sort of the standard. So we would like to see, the manifesto would like to see a minimum of 20% of organic product within the total purchase of food. How to insert it in the procurement tender. So you have the procurement criteria, and then you also have like another example for small-scale farmers. The idea, the target here was a minimum of 10% of food that comes from small-scale food producers, and we also define in the manifesto what do we mean by by small-scale food producers. We take into consideration the turnover, the size, and the number of employees. And on this, if I'm not mistaken, I've seen in the audience Paula Hernandez, and I think that in Spain there are very interesting development on this front regarding small-scale farmers and family farmers. But perhaps we can discuss this later. The other initiative that I wanted to mention is this petition that was launched not only by Buy Better Food, Eatley, but also by different other organizations linked also to another project. This is a petition that was calling for free healthy school meals for all children across Europe. It's a petition that got a lot of traction, that was presented in different settings. As you can see, we have reached more than 100,000 signatures. However, the policymakers at the EU have well received it, but somehow turned a deaf ear to it, because nothing is currently underway to promote it. Yes, another initiative across Europe that foster sustainable food procurement is actually a campaign, a more recent campaign that is led by France Urbaine. That is in English it's called Free Public Procurement. This is a campaign that essentially aims at the same objective of the Buy Better Food, so healthy, sustainable, fairly produced food in public canteens that support also like local economy and small food producers. But the tool, the means by which they would like to achieve these objectives are slightly different. The Free Public Procurement campaign advocates essentially for the simplification of the procurement method. What they would like to do is to ensure that 50% of the food that is purchased can be purchased through a free choice of procedure by the municipality. Essentially allowing cities to decide more freely from where to buy and what to buy for a substantial chunk of the whole food purchased. These two campaigns have been doing their job, let's say, in parallel, but we never really crossed until 2 years ago, when we had an event. We presented our visions at the Parliament, and this was actually the opportunity to sort of merge our two main demands. And we agreed that asking for minimum sustainability criteria or asking for simplified procedure were not opposing each other, but actually very much complementary. And this was actually the way to go to ensure that across Europe, public money is used for the public good and is supporting the transition towards more sustainable food system. So this is why we said, on one side, we need this level playing field, but this level playing field also needs to come with like some simplified procedure for those cities that at least would like to go further than that. And here I have a very short slide, but I don't think I have to present it. It's the work that we're doing with the Urban Agenda Partnership on food. Just as a reminder, maybe the partnership, these partnerships are like platform where different stakeholders, in particular the Commission, cities, and organization, get the chance to work together towards essentially three main objectives, or following three main lines. So better fundings, better regulation, and better knowledge. And as was mentioned before by Rafaela, the food partnership has since developed its own action plan. And when it comes to procurement, what we're trying to do is, on one side, develop a position for the partnership on what is sustainable food procurement, and most certainly in the coming weeks, we will be developing a response to the coming up Public Procurement Act. And then last initiative that I would like to mention, but I'm going to be very brief because my colleague Monica will dive more in depth into the excellent work that the project has been doing, is the European Horizon School Food for Change project. This is a massive project that is interesting for the approach that it adopts to its focus, which is school meals across Europe. It's a project that articulates itself around three main pillars, three main objectives. So on one side, to support cities and public authority in developing strategic and sustainable tenders. So basically ensuring that cities know how to purchase sustainable, healthy, and fairly produced food and products. On the other side, work closely with those who prepare actually the food for the kids. So training the kitchen staff and the cooks into transforming raw material into delicious meals. And third, the food education. As you probably know, we can offer kids very nutritious and food. Yet if it's not tasty, they won't eat it. And so it's important that food education becomes like part of their curriculum, and they start learning how to appreciate sustainable food. So this is actually a slide that I should have put before. So this is because I said it's a massive project, and indeed, as you can see here, it's a project that had 43 partners, including different cities and regions and school networks. It was present in 12 countries, and it actually had, because it finished recently, more than 25 replication cities and institutions. And here you just have a brief overview of its impact. As I said, 35 local and regional governments were involved. It positively impacts 3,800 schools and daycare centers. In total, it reached 1 million children across Europe, and it served over 100 million healthy school meals every year. But I will let Monica present more in details these the School Food for Change project.
Jean-Marc, I don't know if you prefer to have a first break for the Q&A session about this first part, or do you prefer to continue and then we have the Q&A after this presentation? What do you prefer?
I was actually closing my session and opening to possible discussion and Q&A.
Okay.
And then have the break.
Okay.
I'm actually done with my session.
Okay.
My section.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So if you have any question, or if you want to share any experience or specific challenges, also the local level, feel free to do so.
First of all, I hope everything was clear.
I think so. Also for not experts, so I think so. Before you mentioned, for example, an interesting experience in Spain. So I don't know if someone from Spain want to share, local experience or challenges.
I don't want to call out anyone, but
No, just to of course. If not, of course, we can continue and then have a moment after the presentation. Yes, there is one point. Yeah, Paula, please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Just to maybe follow up on what Jan said. He was referring to the Family Farming Act, which is under discussion right now at the national level in Spain. The Ministry of Agriculture is trying to promote a similar framework as it is in other regions within Spain. For example, now in my region, Aragon, we have one law from 2023, which refers to cultural heritage is protected by adjusting the minimum farm sizes and promoting generational succession. But it's true, like that's been translated as well to procurement in a way, just to promote the primary sector. So we will inform when we have more developments in that regard, but there's a strong focus right now on this, mostly right now that we have also the National Royal Decree for school meals, who are actually trying to promote as well more seasonal products, but also organic, and even the ones from the territory in a way to also eat more local products in a way, which can also be quality products from geographical indications, etc. So that's what is been happening here, but hopefully we will inform about more successes about this anytime soon.
Paula, if you don't mind, do you know when it's supposed to? You said it's a law under discussion. Do you know when it's supposed to be like enacted or voted?
I have no idea. For now, we have national elections next year, so here in Spain. So hopefully that will be before the national elections. But I don't know exactly about the timing.
All right, thanks. I've
Yeah.
personally very much look forward to see this kind of development because it resembles what Brazil has done with the definition of a family and indigenous farms. And once you have a legal definition of that, then it's easier for city to purchase food from them. Otherwise, all economic operators are treated the same, but we pretty much know that that's not the case. Sodexo or like a big industrial farm is not the same as a small food producer.
Yes, indeed.
Awesome.
We will see the the developments, but I'm not sure about the calendar right now.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know if there are like any other questions. We have still 3 minutes for questions. Otherwise, we can. I think it's okay if we take 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes for the break before we dive into more technical aspects of procurement. Well, it seemed that my presentation was extremely clear. So then, Rafael, I think it's okay if we perhaps reconvene at 11, 5 past 12.
At 12, you mean?
Oh yeah, if
In 10 minutes, in more or less 10 minutes.
I don't know if 10,
Yeah.
10 minutes is fine. Then let's do 12.
Okay, so yeah, in 10 minutes. So thank you and see you soon.
All right.
Are everyone back from the break? Yeah. So I will continue with more of the practical side of the procurement work, specifically, based on the great evidence from School Food for Change. As Jean has already introduced, the project has been really a successful innovation on the ground project that made huge changes and mindset shifts across so many cities and communities and partners. And although it ends this month, its legacy is really strong, and the work that has been done on the triple approach. So the food education, the procurement, and the training of chefs will continue being developed and being implemented in the cities, but also there are more and more cities becoming interested in that. So now if we go to the next slide. Okay, so yes, the goal was to shift towards healthy, sustainable, and more inclusive school meals. And this is why the this core innovation and this core approach that was implemented consisted of procurement, education, and the training. So starting with this first pillar, the procurement, our work in School Food for Change really involved very close collaboration with the procurers, working on the tenders. And you can imagine tenders are happening quite fast. So we also had to be, you know, quite fast in catching the moments when the tenders are being developed. This work also involved close collaboration with municipal departments responsible for school food, but also with schools themselves, because in certain cities, schools are the ones that are procuring the food themselves. And from the very beginning, there was this strong commitment really to moving beyond price and pushing for sustainability, diversity, taste, health, social criteria when designing the tenders, when exchanging with suppliers, when working with the catering companies, with the kitchen staff. So important work that we did early on is indeed to develop a set of core and advanced procurement criteria, which provided this guidance for cities designed specifically indeed to strengthen the sustainability and health dimension of the tenders. No? And this work was developed with procurers or municipal departments from 18 cities, and it was based in Europe, and it was also legally screened. Later on, this work guided indeed the development of the more than 30 tenders that cities have implemented during the course of the project, which was indeed 4.5 years. Another important work that we have done, and that is also very much recommended, is to work cross different municipal departments and develop kind of specific plans for the procurement that can bring indeed education, health, environment department who have their own goals and objectives into more of a holistic approach to working on the school meals, and market dialogues, which Jean already mentioned, and I'm going to talk about it more extensively later in this presentation. So that's about the procurement. If we go to the next slide, pillar 2, menus, cooking and healthy diets. I mean, this pillar, as mentioned, has really focused on chefs, the kitchen staffs, and the meals themselves. And we often say that procurement, yes, buys food, but it's really people working in the kitchens and chefs who bring the creativity and who develop meals. So even if we have the strongest procurement standards, we cannot ensure that children will enjoy them. Therefore, this pillar really focuses on creating meals that are healthy, sustainable, but also attractive and delicious. And thanks to the work with the chefs, children were introduced to new flavors, textures, new ingredients, and we often talk about children eating more plant-based and more vegetables, etc. And indeed, I mean, this work in the pillar 2 applied many methods that help children to get exposed also to unfamiliar yet very delicious vegetable taste, so to say. No, so we can say that in the project we have trained, or they were trained, around like 1,500 chefs who really specialized in designing meals that are more healthy with better ingredients, but also tastier. There was a recipe book that was created as well, which, you know, I will share the resources later with you as well, so you can have a look yourself into that work. And if we go to the next pillar, this is a very important pillar, and it's a pillar indeed on food education, because what we have noticed working with cities is that food education is not really consistently integrated into the school life. And I mean, yeah, this is the importance about inspiring children to understand also where food comes from, appreciate the people who produce it, learn more about the food culture, was really at the center of this whole school food approach, which consisted of 4 pillars. So the first pillar was focused on policy and leadership, so really ensuring that people working in the school leaders recognize food as an important part of school curriculum, and also decision making. The second pillar was focused on food and sustainability, so really looking into how we can provide healthy and sustainable food, also through school environment. So how the canteens are designed, whether the procurement includes criteria that encourage providers, suppliers to integrate the educational aspect. So that was something very important that we have realized through our work in School Food for Change. Also education and learning, so really engaging teachers, cooks, parents, everyone in learning about school food, and community and partnership, building stronger relationship with the outside community. So farmers visiting schools and vice versa, children visiting farms. That's very important, and that's part of the procurement as well, as I said, with the criteria on education. So yeah, keeping in mind that procurement, the food education and training were put together, they really have a systemic impact on the quality and health and sustainability of the school meals and children well-being. Now, when we go to the next slide, Jean, please. Okay. So this is very interesting because procurement changes according to the city, according maybe to the requirements, and here in the School Food for Change we work with cities that indeed operate under very different procurement systems. This diversity of how the food is procured, what is the mechanism of procuring food, also help us to reflect on different solutions that can work in one context, local context, but not in the other. No, so here, for example, we have those 3 models that emerge out of the School Food for Change. One is this direct purchasing model, where municipalities directly purchase food products for school meals. The second one is the catering company model, which in the project was the largest group, where cities outsource meal provision to a catering company through a contract. And the more of a tiny one is the one where school procures food, and the schools themselves are responsible for their own decisions. No, so yeah, this is also very interesting. Very interesting way of looking at the procurement model and what's behind it in terms of dynamics of work with the operators and the people who are involved in it. Okay, so if we move to the next slide. So yeah, this is, as I mentioned earlier, this first activity that we have done in School Food for Change, specifically in the procurement work, was to develop this common framework, the guidance, the practical guidance to help cities use procurement indeed more strategically, more holistically, to deliver healthier, more sustainable, and more socially responsible school food. And as a result, was the development of the 7 procurement targets. And the targets, of course, as you can see, they include organic production and biodiversity protection, nutrition, quality, taste, freshness, and seasonality, reduction of food poverty and inequality, food education, food culture, and culinary traditions, support for small farmers and social integration, fair trade, and decent labor conditions. So yeah, these 7 targets really form the backbone of the work for cities in School Food for Change. However, yeah, defining ambitious targets is only the first step. Cities are also in need for the practical guidance on how to translate this objective into tender documents and procedures. No, so this is why for each of these targets, the report also provided example of procurement criteria and implementation approaches, as well as good practices that can be used as an inspiration and help to adopt these targets to the different local context. So if we move to the next slide. So yeah, so this is exactly to make this handbook really a practical, useful tool. We structure it around mostly 2 levels. So the first one defines the 7 procurement targets, describing what cities might want to achieve. And the second, for each target, it provides practical criteria showing how the ambition can be integrated into the larger procurement process. And the criteria in the handbook are organized into these 4 procurement layers. So you have selection criteria. So basically assessing, okay, does this supplier have the capacity, has the expertise to deliver on this objective, on the sustainability objective? Technical specifications, so defining what is the mandatory requirement that they need to meet, and award criteria allowing really contracting authorities to reward those suppliers that, yeah, they go beyond what's the minimum requirement, okay? And we also included, we also provided examples of contract performance clauses that could help really cities to understand how to ensure that the commitment made during the tender by the suppliers is actually delivered throughout the contract period. And yeah, so this is about the kind of a legal framework of the handbook that then was very, very useful for the cities to work on the tenders. So now if we go to the next slide. Jean has mentioned that already, the importance of the market dialogues. This is something that we have really prioritized in this handbook, because one of the biggest challenges that we heard, and that you probably know as well in public food procurement is that the system itself is really designed around large suppliers. It's also quite bureaucratic, and as a result, many small farmers, cooperatives or SMEs struggle really to participate. Yeah. And during the project, the wish is that to buy more from smaller producers, to buy more local, but it's difficult really to enable a situation when you have tenders sometimes of such a big sizes. So this is why market dialogues are very important. I can again repeat what Jean said, that this is a market dialogue is a conversation between the contracting authority, so the municipality or the school, etc., and suppliers before the tender is published. However, they can also take place during the contract implementation and after the contract is awarded. So yeah, it depends also what are the needs of communicating with your market, with your suppliers. There are also market dialogues that take place in the kitchen. So, for example, with kitchen professionals, Copenhagen does this type of market dialogues, where discussions are also around taste and product quality and menu planning. Yeah, I mean, this is very important finding from the School Food for Change, and a big recommendation to do the market dialogues as a kind of must when you're working on your tenders. I have also a nice example of its application. If you go to the next slide, Jean. Yeah, so indeed, this is a good example from Umea in Sweden. So Umea wanted to use procurement indeed not only to buy food, but also to support the integration of disadvantaged workers. And in the wholesale food contract that they developed, the winning supplier was required to employ 2 people from disadvantaged background. And it's not, I mean, it sounds maybe straightforward, but it requires a lot of thinking behind. And this is where, before launching the tender, the municipality really organized the market dialogues to assess the feasibility of this requirement, where indeed it was discussed how is it possible to do it. And the municipality also continues supporting the implementation of this after the contract was awarded by helping also to identify candidates and maintaining this continuous dialogues with the suppliers throughout the contract period, right? So it also shows that it's not only the help to the supplier, but also this transparency that creates much more greater chance of really achieving the results the procurers want, even if they are so ambitious. Okay, so now we can move to the next slide, and this is where I'm going to dive to our 7 targets. I hope everyone is still with me. I don't see any faces, but yeah, this is actually taken from the handbook, so you can also, after this webinar, consult the handbook more in depth on these targets. But I'm also going to bring here some indeed good practice examples of implementation of that work in School Food for Change. So with the first one, organic production and biodiversity protection. Well, this target, as it looks, it really focuses on increasing the share of organic food while also keeping in mind of supporting biodiversity. And the target that was set was that at least 40% of food come from certified organic sources. But of course, in recognition of the challenges that are faced by producers, this target also allows the products from farms that can demonstrate that they are working towards transitioning towards organic production, even if they don't have a full certification, can also apply. And the criteria were introduced through technical specification, requiring indeed a minimum organic share, or through award criteria that reward, for example, a supplier that offers higher levels of organic products, such as eggs, olive oil, other products that can be organic. And for that was a target that most of the cities worked on and also increased to a certain degree. I can give here example of Vienna. Jean, if you can please. Yeah, Vienna, it's a fantastic example of organic food as well, because the city has been working on the organic, on sustainable procurement for many years through its Ökokauf program, which brings together experts from different municipal departments, the procurers, the suppliers, the food producers, to continuously and systematically discuss the sustainability standards. So in many ways, you can also interpret this Ökokauf also as a market dialogue, this ongoing collaboration that really helps align the policy ambition with what the market can deliver. And today, Vienna has very high organic shares, so it's 50% in schools, 60% in kindergartens, and some of the product categories like eggs and dairy are sourced entirely from organic production. What's really very important to see now also in Vienna is that since 2025, Vienna expanded access to free school meals. And despite serving this growing numbers of meals for more schools, the commitment to the organic still stayed the same. So that's very important. If we go to this next slide, here I have another example, which is very inspirational. It comes from Nuoro in Sardinia. And here again, this also shows the power of the market dialogue. So in 2033, the city organized this market dialogue consultation before launching the new school food tender. And it was for the first time that many actors came together. The companies, the unions, local producers, institutional partners, to really discuss, what's the future of our school food? And as a result, it was possible to increase organic food from 13%, that was the percentage of 2022, to 75% in 2026. So yeah, it really shows that how the market dialogues can really unlock sustainable and healthy procurement at a scale. Okay, so now we can move to the target 2, which is nutrition, quality, taste, freshness, and seasonality. Okay, so this target focuses on an aspect of school food that sometimes may be overlooked in the procurement discussion, and it's that the food, okay, it has to also taste, it has to be eaten, and has to be enjoyed. And we can have the most indeed sustainable criteria on nutrition, but if children do not enjoy that, then it's an effort lost. And therefore, for this example, from the technical specification, this target encourages to include fruit and vegetables that comply with the national nutritional guidance to ensure balanced and healthy diets, but also at the same time encourage suppliers really to provide greater diversity of fresh and seasonal products. So suppliers might be asked to explain how they select the seasonal ingredients, how they ensure the quality and sustainability, and what portion of food supplied will be fresh and seasonal from the place, right? So not imported, but from the place. So yeah, this aspect of freshness and seasonality is also very much linked to taste, food education, and yeah, food awareness, also linked to the target that we have on food education. And if you would like to have like a good example of how such a target can be implemented in practice, then we can move to the next slide, which is Dordogne. And yeah, Dordogne, which is a region in France, and Dordogne uses catering really as this tool of really supporting freshness, nutrition and taste, and really working on improving meal quality. Schools aim for 100% homemade meals that are prepared from the scratch using fresh ingredients, seasonal ingredients. But because the procurement there is decentralized and schools have their own kitchens, also this encourages smaller local suppliers participation more easily, and also exchange between smaller local suppliers with the kitchen staffs that automatically translate in the quality of the meals, freshness, and the seasonality that is also represented in how meals are prepared. Okay, so that's about target 2. We can go to the next target. This one is about greenhouse gas emission reduction. So, yeah, okay, climate goals are important for cities and public authorities, yet there's a question how they can be also translated into concrete procurement requirements and how we can then be operationalized. And indeed, in School Food for Change, we looked into the full life cycles of the school meals in the tenders, from food production to the transport, preparation, consumption, food waste. And what we have noticed that the first and kind of most impactful lever to address the greenhouse gas emissions is the protein transition. So the technical specifications encourage menus that increase legumes, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, reducing dependency and reliance on more carbon intense animal products. So yeah, many cities have been already having vegetarian plant-based option every day, or at least one day in a week is dedicated completely to the vegetarian. Another lever that we have noticed is, of course, we're really working on food waste prevention. So yeah, as you can see here, award criteria, encourage suppliers to think about the strategies to reducing food waste, whether it's a composting system that is in place, whether it's monitoring. A lot of emphasis also goes into training. Yeah, so measures like that are very important. And the last one is this operational approach to food waste reduction. So really looking at resource efficiency, how the meals are packaged, how they are transported to the school, etc., and considering that. And here, as a good practice example of this target, I can indeed talk about Ghent. So indeed, in Ghent, by redesigning school meals and moving more towards this 50% plant-based meals, the city achieved and measured 38% reduction of food-related greenhouse gas emissions. And the largest contribution came indeed from shifting towards more plant-based proteins. But what's really interesting is that really Ghent, in order to achieve that, they really work holistically. They involve chefs, they involve kitchen staff, nutritionists, schools. They consulted, over 1,000 children that provided feedback on the meals. That really helps with this dilemma of, okay, we have a great looking plant-based burger, but who is going to eat it? And this model that they have implemented, that you can also see on the right side, which is 50% percentage vegetables, 25 whole grains, and 25 proteins, can be animal proteins, but can also remain the plant proteins, was really a strategy to achieve these amazing results. So that's on the target 3. We are getting there. Okay, so our target 4, it's about reduction of food poverty. Well, I mean, we can say that school meals differ across Europe, but the one challenge really remains that still many children struggle to access healthy and nutritious food on a regular basis. And just latest Eurostat data also shows that around 19.5 million children are at risk of poverty and social exclusion. So this is why this target is so important. And just really to see, how with school meals can be as nutritious as possible and accessible to all the children. And here, what we can say, Tallinn is, if we pass to the next slide, Tallinn exactly in Estonia provides a really powerful example of this approach, because Estonia already offers free school lunches. But Tallinn indeed went one step further. And indeed, the beginning last year, every student in the municipal school was entitled indeed to a free hot breakfast in addition to a meal that they are already receiving. I mean, this initiative affected 58 schools and created enormous social value. So yes, that's important. Very important target to include in the tenders. Even if maybe school meals are more, there is a more targeted approach in your city, or there are none. It's really important to see how we can support broader measures like breakfast clubs or food sharing programs, or redistribution also of surplus food in a way that is confidential and non-stigmatizing. So that, school food is all about equity as well, ensuring that every child has the opportunity to access meals. Okay, now we go to next slide, and our part of the pillar on food education. So indeed, one lesson from School Food for Change was that indeed changing what is on the plate and what we eat might not be enough. And that children are more likely to accept and enjoy healthy, sustainable food when they also understand a bit of a context, so how it was produced and why we eat this in this season, right? So the objective of this target was therefore to show the importance that we need to make food a learning experience rather than just, a service delivery. And this of course can take many forms. I mean, cities have organized cooking activities, school gardens, trips to the farms, and what is interesting is that the procurement, really can support these activities. So through indeed award criteria, the contracting authorities can encourage suppliers to contribute to the food education by really integrating educational activities such as workshops that many of the cities also have done. And if you go to the next slide, where I can show you this in practice, I mean, definitely Milan is particularly strong example of how this aspect of education has emerged out of the program, and it's now really part of the procurement. So the municipality has integrated food education directly into the tendering process through its in-house catering company, Milano Ristorazione. And through this approach, suppliers were not only assessed on price or technical specification performance, but they were also required to contribute to kind of this also city Milan educational objectives, no? And as a part of the tenders, so the suppliers were encouraged to develop educational activities. And so in 2023, there was, for example, an organic yogurt supplier who developed food education laboratories for schools on how to make yogurts. In the last year, there were additional educational projects that were aligned with the tenders. For example, how children can make tomato sauce, how they can bake their own bread. So visiting to the baker and visiting to the visits to the pasta making. So all of those educational workshops were requested in the tenders and also provided by the suppliers in the tender. And here, I mean, you can see that you can also check it out. This is a website that was developed as part of the tender, as part of this educational criteria that provides indeed teachers, parents, and children educational resources on food. Okay, so let's move on. Wow, that's getting closer to the end. Okay, so This is one of our favorite also targets, the target on small farmers and social integration. It really focuses on local food economies and how we can create more social value through procurement. I mean, as we know, across Europe, many small farmers face difficulties really accessing public procurement markets. As I said, contracts are too large, the bureaucracy is very high, and also, supply chains are increasingly dominated by larger operators. So this target sets specifically a target that at least 10% of food supplied under contract should originate either from small farmers or organizations employing disadvantaged workers. And back to my recommendation on the market dialogues, really a key to achieve this target is to engage the market early through the pre-procurement engagement that municipalities can launch with the suppliers. They can better understand what's the supply capacity and what are the barriers that small-scale farmers are facing. And a way of also achieving this target is what we have seen is to divide contracts into smaller lots. So indeed, rather than procuring all products through one big, large contract, cities can create opportunities for small suppliers to purchase specific product categories like fruit or dairy products, bakery items, etc. So if we go to the next slide, this is a good example. Sorry, it should be Malmo, not Milan. So Malmo is a very good example of how this redesign and splitting takes place in reality, because I mean, just last year they introduced dynamic purchasing system, which is different than traditional approach to procurement contracts, because it's instead of selecting suppliers at once and closing, let's say, the contract and the market for years, the dynamic purchasing systems is open and allows new suppliers to join over time as they become also ready to participate. And this is very important for small-scale farmers and producers, really, and it also creates much more flexibility in terms of, who can deliver what. For example, for Malmo, it's a case of potatoes at the moment, but what's also interesting is that through this system, there is an opportunity for the schools to not only receive the potatoes, so to say, from the farmer, but also go to the farmer and see how the potatoes are being grown. So, you have also this educational element integrated under this target. Okay. Oh my God, this is our last target. So final one that shows that sustainability is not only about environmental impacts, but also about people who produce food and the working conditions. And indeed, many products used in the school meals, coffee, tea, sugar, bananas, any other tropical fruits, are sourced from countries where producers face low incomes, where there are poor working conditions. And this is why this objective of this target is therefore really to ensure that 50%, at least 50% of these products imported can demonstrate that there is fair, ethical trading practices, and so they are recognized either by fair trade certification or equivalent certification scheme. And I mean, it is then translated to the technical specification really on providing that the or demonstrating that the food is sourced from certified fair trade suppliers. And here the good practice example, which is our next slide, is Oslo, which also has been recognized as a fair trade city and has used public procurement really as a tool to enhance fair and ethical trade. So between 2018 and 19, they really increase the share of fair trade certified products. Bananas increased from 3% to 50%, for example. Same with coffee, that increased in percentage of organic. And what's really also interesting is that also there's also a steering group that works on this aspect of fair trade and bring different municipal departments together, but also businesses and organizations to promote even more this ethical sourcing. Yes, so this was the last target of the School Food for Change handbook. I hope it was practical and inspirational experience for you to find out all the details and good practices. As I said, I don't know, Jean, there was one slide with resources.
I'm
Okay,
sorry. No,
no.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot to include it. My bad.
Okay,
when I was doing the formatting.
No problem. I mean, we will share with you the link to the resource page where you can download all the materials related to the procurement, but also to other pillars, as I mentioned before.
Yeah, and Monica, please consider that we will share the slide after the event. So if you want to include another slide with the resources, you can include, and then we will share the materials with the participants, and we will also make them available on the partnership webpage. Thank you for this very practical and concrete example. So I don't know whether there are some questions from the participants, doubt, question, or comment as well. I have just a more general question on the project, because if I'm not mistaken, the project has concluded. Is it correct?
We're wrapping it up, so yes.
Okay, and do you know if there will be I don't know, a community of practice after project ends, where local authorities, cities can refer to if they have any, I don't know, doubt or question about the example provided in the handbook, or so. I don't know if you are envisaging something like that after the projects.
That's a very good idea, and of course, yes, we are now considering different options to continue the work, because there's such a commitment to the school meals work among so many cities and practitioners. So we're just looking into different best options to continue.
Okay, thanks. So of course, if you have any news about this, of course, we can then share with the members of the partnership. And so I give the floor to the participants for any question or comments.
I think that maybe everyone is looking forward to the lunch break, as it's already one.
Yeah, for sure.
So, on the slides, we'll put the contact, so don't hesitate if you have any question. You can write to us or to Rafael as well.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
So thank you all for joining. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you will find the recording and presentation materials on the thematic partnership webpage. And a special thank you to Monica and Jean-Marc for their presentation and the example provided. So thank you very much.
Thank you a lot. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.
You all.